Thank you, Madam Chair, and again, thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. The reality is that the farm economy will experience the steepest two-year decline of all time, down $80 billion from 2022. I've had the opportunity to be with a lot of farmers, as we all have in the last year and a half. Invariably, the first thing that's mentioned is the need to have better risk management tools, including reference prices, making sure crop insurance is going to be able to do the job. Right now, March corn futures are at $4.30. Last week, they were below $4. So the situation now is more difficult than we were out in the field so much. So you've commented on the challenge Congress faces to direct funds to the numerous competing priorities in the Farm Bill. As a solution, you've offered that the Secretary can exercise the Commodity Credit Corporation authority to address the farm safety net shortcomings that may arise in the future. Can you tell us about the guidance you've received from the Office of General Counsel, the Office of Management and Budget, or others that describes how the CCC could be used to provide new resources to Title I and increase statutory reference prices?
Actually, Senator, what I said was not what you indicated. What I said was that I'd be happy to work with Congress to find a creative way to utilize the resources of the CCC to try to address some of the concerns that you all have relative to reference prices, as I did when you requested assistance in trade and international food assistance, which I'm more than happy to do. Happy to sit down with our team is happy to sit down and explore what creative ways we could use the CCC. I think there's a tendency on the part of folks to think that the Farm Bill is the only thing that we should be focused on. There's the budget, there's the Farm Bill, there's the IRA, and there's the CCC, and I think all of those basically can work collaboratively together to try to address the issues that divide you all on in terms of a Farm Bill today.
Even though your testimony fails to mention the SNAP program, it's an important topic for today's hearing with the backdrop of the looming Farm Bill reauthorization. USDA has estimated that Thrifty Food reevaluation increased SNAP costs by nearly $20 billion in 2022 alone. Has USDA determined the total cost of the 2021 Thrifty Food Plan reevaluation across all nutrition programs, such as the Emergency Food Assistance Program, TFAP, and others whose costs are based on the TFP?
You know, Senator, I'm not sure that we've made that calculation. I'd be more than happy to ask our staff to look at it. Having said that, you know, I think what we did was justified and appropriate because the whole point of the SNAP program is to provide help and assistance to families based on the reality of what they live in. What we had not done in SNAP, which we did do a couple of years ago, was to actually ask the question, how much does it actually cost at the grocery store and what in fact are people buying? Not assuming what they're buying, but what in fact are they buying? And from that, we obviously calculated an increase, which for families meant an opportunity to avoid some very serious consequences, especially when the emergency allotments were lifted off. But I'm more than happy to take a look at this and happy to take into consideration anything else that you want us to consider. At the end of the day, you know, there are many ways in which we can look at the SAP program, but one thing is that we're seeing fewer people using it today, so the expectation is the cost is going to come down a little bit.
The GAO made 8 recommendations to the Department for future TFP reevaluations, and USDA has only implemented 4 of those recommendations. Could the next TFP reevaluation begin before USDA has closed out the remaining recommendations made by GAO? We've
made a concerted effort to work with GAO to close audits and reports, Senator, so I'm certain that we will do this on a timely way. If you talk to GAO, you'll find that we've been very, very cooperative, much more so than previous administrations.
So when do you think you'll get the 4 done?
I don't have a specific timeline for you today, Senator, but I'll be happy to get it for you.
Could you?
But I'm sure it's not going to be. I'm sure it will be before we have to reevaluate the Thrifty Food Plan.
So you could reevaluate it without doing it, though. Is that what you're saying? Or?
No. What I'm saying is that we will take the actions that GAO has requested prior to any reevaluation of the Thrifty Food Plan, because we are focused on making sure that we work collaboratively with GAO on recommendations and audits, as we do also with OIG.
Thank you. In May of last year, USDA issued the initial study plan for the 2026 TFP reevaluation. My understanding is USDA is awaiting additional data to inform this reevaluation, such as scanner data on food prices and the recommended 2025 dietary guidelines for Americans. Do you have any insight on how this information will impact the cost of the TFP to taxpayers, and when you do expect USDA will begin the process for the 2026 reevaluation of the TFP?
Well, obviously, we don't know because we don't have the information, but I think it is appropriate for us to ask for this information. It gets back to the point that I made earlier, which is we have to deal with what actually is happening in the marketplace in terms of actual costs, and we also have to have a better understanding of what families actually use and need. I can go into great detail about the way this was done before in terms of the assumptions about families that were struggling financially, but they were not lined up to the reality of families. The amount of time preparing food from scratch, the amount of beans and other items that were purchased that just are not aligned with everyday American life today. So it's important for us to have that information to be able to make an informed set of decisions.
I'm concerned, I know a lot of us are concerned about California's Prop 12 and the impact that a patchwork of state laws on animal housing will have on producers, particularly at a time when hog producers are already in the midst of a prolonged period of prices below break even. You've stated Congress should intervene to prevent chaos in the marketplace resulting from Prop 12 and other similar initiatives. Can you describe the marketplace disruption you foresee if Congress does not choose to address the Prop 12 and similar initiatives?
Well, you've got 50 states that essentially could make decisions based on their own individual value system and based on their own agricultural economy. We literally as a country tried this at the beginning of this country with the Articles of Confederation, where we gave states basically the ability to make decisions, and the reality was it was chaos, which is why we have a Constitution. Look, I totally understand why Californians would want to regulate what happens within the four borders of the corners of their state in terms of their own producers, but I don't think the Supreme Court, when it decided that pork producers had a choice to participate in the California market or not, understood the pork market. When you're dealing with 12% of the pork market in one state, there is not a choice between doing business with in California and not in California. You're essentially going to it's going to be driven by that requirement, which is going to make it very, very difficult. So I think at some point in time, somebody's got to provide some degree of consistency and clarity. Otherwise, you are just inviting 50 different states to do 50 different iterations of this. And if farmers, they don't need the chaos, they need clarity and certainty.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.